Good afternoon and welcome to this month's show. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss progress being made in cloud computing programs within the Department of Defense and Homeland Security agencies. With me on today's show are Paul Puckett, Director, Enterprise Cloud Management Agency, U.S. Army; John Hale, Chief of Product Implementation for the Hosting and Compute Center, Defense Information Systems Agency; Richard Clark, Chief Technology Officer, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement; Matthew Chiotti, Chief Security Officer, Public Cloud, Palo Alto Networks; Stephen Moon, Principal Data Platform Architect, Office of the Field CTO at Snowflake; and Aaron Kinworthy, Area VP, Federal ServiceNow. Well, we're talking about a very important subject, a very active subject. Paul, we're going to start with you. I understand you all got promoted from an office recently to an agency. A lot going on over there. Give us the state of the state.
Yeah, absolutely, Luke, and thanks for having me on. So as part of the Enterprise Cloud Management Agency, as most of you know here, but for others that are relatively new, we're responsible for both creating the strategy as well as the implementation and delivery of the Army's new modern approach to adopting cloud computing. We've had a number of different swings at that in the past, but really we weren't leaning in and changing the way that we organize ourselves, nor were we looking at the way that we do business. So over the course of the last 2 years, the ECMO, as it was first founded, the Cloud Management Office, essentially leaned in and started delivering not only a strategy, but also services to accelerate the Army's adoption of cloud. And with us adopting, delivering services and what that meant for the Army, we were once part of the Chief Information Office officially as part of one of their directorates. But we had to switch into a field operating agency because we started to step out of the role of just policy and governance that's typically appended to the CIO and started delivering services and capability. And so by becoming a field operating agency that reports to the CIO, now we've got the full spectrum of essentially authorities when it comes to not only ideating around what should be done across the Army when it comes to cloud, but also executing and delivering services. When we first leaned in, we partnered with the Office of Business Transformation. They had a major move to start to modernize the ERPs that run a lot of the logistics in business for how we do the Army. And so we had a major press to move those capabilities into the cloud. And that was kind of the first mover. From then, we've seen capabilities across every single ACOM and nearly every single downtrace across the ASCCs and the DRUs start to identify critical systems that they believe could benefit from moving to the cloud and start to accelerate capabilities in the cloud. It's really started this journey of a new realization of how we could be doing business. I just recently got back from 9 days of travel, and essentially I was running across the entire Pacific from Washington State to Hawaii, all the way out to Guam. And the entire narrative was, how can we start to deliver mission command capabilities as a service? Typically in the Army, we think about delivering capabilities as a massive fielding challenge. And so oftentimes when everyone gets their own kit, that becomes sometimes a multi-year initiative. But now with the delivery of online on-demand compute and storage resources, we can now fundamentally reimagine the way that we deliver capabilities all the way to the tactical warfighter. And we believe that there's immense value in leaning in and delivering mission command as a service, and now having a persistent online ecosystem that allows for the ad hoc nature of exercises and experimentation across the Army. But to be able to dramatically reduce the fielding time from years all the way down to minutes, and then also the operational lead time from months all the way down to simply, I think our latest goal here is around 30 minutes there. So it just fundamentally changes the way we think that we can do business, and then also now how we organize ourselves to deliver those types of capabilities. So definitely a lot going on. In 22, our goal is to really scale the value of cloud computing across the Army. And so we're starting to see those ideas start to pop up and change of, wait, what could I be doing differently? And not only the way we organize, but then also the way that we design these systems to now work as a distributed ecosystem rather than these isolated fixed resources that we're typically accustomed to in the past. So we're really excited for where 22 is going to go, especially in the context of scale, but also then just the different way that we can possibly do business to dramatically lower the cost of doing business, but also increase the capabilities and value that we can have to the warfighter.
Right. And time to market, so to speak, that consumption model, it seems like configuring yourself as an agency came just in time. John, how about at DISA? You all deal with all the services. You've got quite a portfolio there. Give us an update on sort of what's happening in the cloud computing
Well,
spectrum across
so
DoD.
yeah, so as you did your introduction, it was kind of interesting. So hearing my title is a little different now than what it has been in the past. So one of the things we did at DISA was over the last year, we've actually combined the Cloud Computing Program Office out of the DoD CIO, the Cloud Services Organization within DISA, and our traditional ecosystem, our data centers, into one organization, which is now the Hosting and Compute Center. And the idea there is to take the prospect of hosting it one step further. You know, the answer isn't traditional compute. The answer isn't cloud. The answer isn't any one thing. It's traditionally been a hybrid within the department of crossing those boundaries between cloud and traditional compute. So what we've done is we've taken all those assets and put them into one organization now under one leader, who can now guide that as far as the DISA goes. So we have the ability to really focus on the hybrid side of compute, which is where we see a lot of the compute within the department going, specifically at the tactical edge. There's a big focus right now on the tactical edge. You know, Paul just said he was out at Guam. Indo-PACOM, from a COCOM perspective, has put in formal requests to get both edge compute and cloud capabilities deployed into their theater. We've gotten the same request from AFRICOM. And so the big push now is, how do we answer the compute needs and the cloud capability needs to the tactical edge and to the warfighter. So that's where a lot of our focus is right now, and that's really what we're kind of zeroing in on this year.
Yeah, good acknowledgement about cloud, sort of the definition of cloud. It's not sort of just a thing out there. It's really a definition of a model, a consumption model, of which there's a lot of different technologies that have been introduced now to allow you to do these hybrid capabilities and get that sort of capability to the folks on the ground. Richard, how about over at Immigration and Customs Enforcement? You all shot out of the box like a rocket and very aggressively moved some very sensitive things, I might add, into the cloud environment. Give us an update as to where you all are at this point.
Thanks for having me, Luke. As you mentioned, not everybody knows, we were the recipients of a getting squeezed out of the DHS data center. So we took advantage of our SecDevOps practice that we had going on, and we went full in on the cloud with all of our enterprise ops a number of years ago. So because we had a very abbreviated timeline in order to get into the cloud, we predominantly had to do a lift and shift. So when we talk about our cloud programs today, it is really about taking advantage of additional services and the cloud native services to take away those single points of failure that we may have brought to the cloud with us because of the rapid timeline in which we got there. There's also continuously new features that the cloud service providers are offering in the government regions that we want to take advantage of in order to reduce cost or improve resiliency of the implementation. We're also at the point now where we're taking a lot of our colo points of presence and even our field office location information, and also moving that into the cloud, which was not part of the enterprise shift that we completed a number of years ago. So, continuous improvement on our SecDevOps practice, which really helps us get into the cloud faster, and continuous pursuit of excellence for these individual programs to make certain that they're taking advantage of all the capabilities that the cloud can offer is really where we're looking at growing and extending our cloud ecosystem at ICE.
Yeah, real good catch there with sort of post lift and shift, and now unlocking all this capability that's available in these new technologies that are being offered. Matt, how about at Palo Alto Networks? There's no way any agency, any service element at DoD can do this without great partnerships from folks like Palo Alto enabling and unlocking these capabilities.
Absolutely, Luke. Yeah, we're seeing across all of our federal customers just a real demand and a desire to better secure those operations as they move into the cloud, whether they're purely 100% cloud or whether they're hybrid, as some have mentioned here. Obviously in the wake of what happened with SolarWinds and the CASIA breaches, I think specific to cloud, there is a great desire to move toward things like zero trust, right? We obviously know there was the presidential directive that came out, also some things with NIST. And so I think, although, perhaps in previous years, there was a lot of talk around zero trust, the CASIA and SolarWinds breaches really made that a reality. And we're starting to see customers get very serious about that in the federal space, specifically when it comes to cloud, because I think, as Rich just mentioned, the first wave of migrations to the cloud really were primarily categorized around lift and shift. But as applications become more modern and they become more cloud native, there is a real need, based upon even some of the threat research that we've done, to make sure that those cloud native supply chains are secure.
Yeah, there's no question about it that as we move into these environments, and again, undoubtedly, it's not just a pure lift and shift. There's always this blend, this hybrid environment. That sort of risk service, that attack surface, gets a lot more complicated. So undoubtedly, those things are being accounted for as those decisions are being made. Steve, how about at Snowflake? You're just assuming at some point that all of this is kind of coming together. And now all of a sudden you want to take advantage of all this wealth and dearth of data that's available, and enter Snowflake.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things I'm seeing, though, just in general, is the advent of a lot of companies building on the cloud, right? You got to have the first iteration of cloud service providers. Now you're seeing a lot of companies build on the cloud, right? So Snowflake's one of those companies, native, born in the cloud, cloud agnostic and all that stuff. But we're a data platform company, a data cloud company. And so one of the interesting things we're seeing a lot of traction in is actually in data security. There's obviously security of the data, but there's also security data itself, right? So I'm collecting data from the edge, I'm collecting IoT data, logs, all these things. And how do I share that in a secure way? How do I allow other agencies to access that data in a secure way while maintaining ownership of that data? And so you hear terms around like data mesh and all these things, but really what a lot of agencies are really asking for is how do we share that data, maintain ownership of that data, but provide value, allow others to derive value out of that data. And so that's probably one of the most conversations I'm having, honestly, within the last several months, is around we're talking about next gen SIMs, user behavior analytics and things like that. It's great that you're collecting that within your own agency, within your own department, but the real value is being able to see trends across. And that's one of the things the cloud enables, but it also, having a singular point for all of that data to be converged in a way that you can still manage it within your own agency, but you're also able to share that data in a way that's secure. And so that's one of probably the biggest trend I'm seeing in the government. And that kind of hits on, some of the stuff that happens to SolarWinds, and, agencies are realizing they're going to have to take a different approach to that. And so, with Snowflake obviously being a data platform, it kind of lends itself very well to be able to do all that, because it handles all those different types of data coming in, allows a single security model and all those things. But that actually dovetails back into my original statement about companies building on the cloud, and the government's willingness to use more SaaS type, move from infrastructure as a service, the platform, into the SaaS model. And really what that allows the government to do is to add value, right? They don't necessarily have to do all this stuff behind the scenes, that they can add value to their domain expertise, whether that's immigration and customs enforcement, security or whatnot. And so those are probably the two biggest things I'm seeing that are starting to accelerate within the federal government.
No doubt, every agent, every soldier, every officer deserves more capability that one is secure and they can rely on and depend on the integrity. Zero trust architecture being a big part of that. Well, thinking and talking about SaaS, Aaron, how about over at ServiceNow? You all, once again, not completely a cloud play, right? You can do on-prem, as I understand, but certainly taking advantage of that sort of up the value chain capability.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Luke. ServiceNow's had hyper growth in the federal space, and it's been really exciting to see the evolution that's happened over the last 10, 15 years. What ServiceNow is doing from a progressive standpoint is really listening to the next generation. People are accustomed to a certain level of service and automation in their regular lives. And as a government agencies evolve, we have to respond to that. And there's still a gap that needs to be closed. And as our famous CEO, Bill McDermott, will say, nobody has to lose for ServiceNow to win. And that's really attributed to the architecture being in the cloud and that we can play nicely with others, but the scalability that can be done across the globe, the rollout that's able to be done and the mobility that can be used is really answering to that next generation that we've been listening to. And it boils down to really three simple things. Paul, you mentioned mission as a service at the Army. We're excited to be supporting that, and IT moving into more of an OT role, data becoming something that's a currency that's of value, right? Both our adversaries and ourselves are using data to better our missions. The next is everything is becoming a service, right? And so we as government agencies or as enterprise vendors need to be aware of the service that we're providing people. And you lose and gain constituents based on the quality of your service. And that's extremely important as we evolve into this next century. And the last and the most important, and our CEO says this as well, it's all about the people. Everything we do, regardless of our mission, has truly started to evolve around the people, whether it's the well-being of our soldiers or the well-being of our soldiers' families or the government employees that we have or the people that we're serving. It really comes down to the person's experience. And so cloud computing has, as you said, put rocket fuel on this and really accelerated the scalability, the mobility that can be done. And it's very exciting to be a part of it.
Fantastic. John, we want to talk about, you came over the top with a lot of different activities going on over there. Give us, if you will, a specific example of a program that you'd like to highlight where the cloud computing has really enabled some capability.
So one of the big things we're working on right now is what we call infrastructure as a code. Infrastructure as a code is a program which we took kind of what the cloud service providers were providing as native capabilities, and we turned it into something that the DoD can leverage. The old adage is you push button, you get banana, right? And so the goal behind infrastructure as a code is to do that from a cloud perspective. So what we've done is we've come up with these basically a set of automated templates and automated capabilities that a mission partner can go into the cloud and actually push a button and basically get an environment that meets DoD standards, that directly inherits in the EMAS perspective all of the security controls which the DoD expects. And it's basically, we don't like to use the term, but it's basically stigged in a box, right? And so you get a set of servers that are pre-configured and meet all of the DoD security controls necessary, and you actually get to inherit your security controls from our packages that exist within the security system. So to go from push button to live system, certified and accredited is a much shorter time frame now. And that's really where we're trying to get at is, the push button, get banana concept. So infrastructure as a code is a huge game changer that we see coming forward for our mission partners to be able to build those cloud native applications as we move away from lift and shift.
No doubt, especially when you talk about the DevSecOps and time to market, push button, definitely the way to go. Maybe we'll even see if Richard can talk about ATO in a day. We'll see. All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.